Hello and welcome back to CEO.CA's Inside the Boardroom. My name is James Petham and today I'm excited to be joined by Craig Parry, Executive Chairman and CEO at Vizsla Copper. He is also Lead Director at Skeena Resources and Chairman at Vizsla Silver, among many other projects. Craig, great to be chatting with you today.
James, really good to be with you.
So we last spoke 10 months ago at Beaver Creek. Can you fill us in on what's been happening since then?
Yeah, so since we last spoke, a lot of things going on with Vizsla Copper. We completed a drill program around that time, just after Beaver Creek, got some interesting drill results there. We then launched a takeover bid for a company called called Universal Copper and their Poplar project. You know, Poplar has about 2 billion pounds of copper in contained resources. We paid the princely sum of $3 million or thereabouts in stock to acquire all of that metal in the ground in central British Columbia. We've done a couple of financings. We did a $2 million financing that we heavily supported ourselves 4 months ago. And then about 6 weeks ago, we did another $5.3 million financing, which sees us very well funded for the next 12 to 18 months. And then about 4 weeks ago, we launched a drill campaign at our Woodjam project. And so a lot going on that front, both on the M&A front, which is core to what we're doing. You know, we see a lot of bargains out there in the copper space, particularly here in Canada. So watch this space on that theme. And a lot going on in the exploration front. You know, we're very excited about the rocks that are coming out of the ground right as we speak.
Absolutely. Thank you for that overview. And I'm going to talk a bit more in a couple of minutes about the exploration program that's ongoing and excited to hear more about that. But I'd like to maybe start with a bit of a history of Vizsla Copper and your involvement. And I guess I saw that the recent raise was supported heavily by insiders. Maybe why are you still so invested in Vizsla Copper? What do you see in it that makes you continue to support the company as an insider?
Well, I'll preface this by saying that I think we're about to go through the most transformational change in supply-demand dynamics for copper that's ever existed on the face of the planet since we started needing copper. We're at the moment we produce about 25 million tons of copper globally per annum. That is set to just about double over the next 10 years. So an extraordinary change, extraordinary dynamic. And last time round that happened. That sort of change in supply-demand fundamentals was from 2000 to 2011. We saw the copper price rise from 70 cents a pound all the way to $4.60 a pound. We're about to see the same dynamics, and I wouldn't be surprised if we wake up in 2030 and see a $30 per pound copper price. So with that in mind, we started the business 6 years ago looking to put our foot on quality copper assets globally, but particularly with a focus in the Americas, where we've got a lot of a track record of success, I suppose. We came across the Panuco Silver project and acquired that, and that now is the fundamental asset for Vizsla Silver. That left us with with a strategy and a number of projects here in British Columbia. And a desire to do something in copper. So we spun Vizsla Copper out of Vizsla Silver, renamed Vizsla Silver Vizsla Resources. We put a PEA out on our Panuco project, one of the greatest mining projects that will ever be built there in Vizsla Silver. So, viewers and listeners should check that one out. And then I set about acquiring copper projects. We acquired the Woodjam Copper project about 2 years ago. Woodjam's a renowned, bit of a mythical type of project here in British Columbia. Huge amounts of metal have been drilled out to date. The project was a little bit unloved, and particularly in the downturn we've been through for the past 10 years, saw serious underinvestment despite the great potential that we see there. So we acquired that project. We've done some drilling, and then we've gone about trying to put our foot on quality resources, again focused on British Columbia, and hence that Poplar acquisition 5 months ago now. We've built up a portfolio of very good quality copper projects, good grade in a great jurisdiction. One of which will become a mining project in the next cycle, certainly. And then we continue to drill those out whilst looking at other M&A opportunities, whilst the market is still, valuing copper projects favourably.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you very much for that overview. Let's talk about those two projects you mentioned, Woodjam and Poplar. I understand there's exploration work going on currently at Woodjam. Is that also the case with Poplar?
We've done some work at Poplar so far. We only completed that acquisition 5 months ago. I've been to site now. I was out there at Poplar 4 weeks ago. We were 2 months ago. We were a little bit astonished by what we saw on the ground out there. There's a big resource that Utah Copper discovered back in the 70s. So that sort of underpinned that $3 million price that we paid for the project. It was a very cheap acquisition of 2 billion pounds of metal in the ground, metal that will have serious value in years to come as the copper price moves up. But we actually discovered outcropping porphyry and porphyry mineralisation that was really undocumented, and we've mapped out a massive alteration system in the southern part of the property. So we're very excited about the discovery potential that we've got there at the Poplar project. But Woodjam's the main focus at the moment. We've done we're halfway through our second drill campaign there. Again, very big resource. There's 1.7 billion pounds of copper and nearly 1 million ounces of gold proven up already. It's an extraordinary terrain in the fact that previous explorers tested 7 porphyry targets and made 5 porphyry discoveries. I've been doing porphyry exploration around the world for the past 24 years. I've never seen such a conversion rate of target to discovery as this property has yielded. So we're excited about that. We completed a mag survey 18 months ago over the property. That gave us another 103 discrete mag targets, some of which are almost certainly going to be new porphyry centres. So there's a lot of targets to test there. So in what we loved about the project is that great prospectivity, but the fact that we were buying the project, we paid $11 million in stock for the company and the project. That gave us a very serious resource base already and a growing resource base. And things are heating up in the area. Our friends at Fortescue have now staked to the west of us. We've got a big property area there, about 90,000 hectares. Fortescue have come along and in recent months staked over 300,000 hectares to the immediate west of our property. You've seen all of the majors come back into British Columbia. You've seen BHP, South32's there. Teck continues to invest heavily in exploration in BC. So it's really starting to heat up, and I think they're seeing what we see. At our project, we have a high-grade core to some of our porphyry deposits that have already been drilled out, namely Southeast and the Deerhorn and Megabuck systems. We're focusing on those high-grade zones to better explore, better understand them, and drill in and around those, and eventually do studies on those and look at a mining project on those higher-grade zones. But we've got a very large resource, lower grade resource at about 0.45% copper equivalent. And those majors tell us what they're looking for are billions of tonnes of that sort of grade, with a view that the copper price is going to be much higher in years to come. So for us, as I say, focusing on understanding these high grade zones and seeing what we can get out of the ground economically in the coming years. But beyond that, drilling out much bigger lower grade porphyry systems that will be attractive to the majors is where it's at for us right now.
And in terms of timelines for the exploration at Woodjam and the developments there, what can we expect throughout the rest of the year?
Yep, so we put out a news release earlier this week on the Poplar project. That talks about the alteration system and that new target that we've generated there. So that's exciting. Of course, we're sort of coming to the back end of summer now. The great thing about the Woodjam project is you've got year-round access, very benign terrain, flat, lots of roads, lots of logging through the area. So great place to access year-round. We're about halfway through our drill campaign now. We'll have assays back shortly. Of course, we're coming up to the start of the conference season, with the kickoff being Beaver Creek here in early September. I'd expect that we'll have assays back for that conference from the initial high impact targets that we've drilled at Deerhorn and Southeast. So look out for that news. I've seen the core come out of the ground there, and I'm excited by how much metal we've seen in that core. So I think we're a good chance of having some positive news in that time frame. The drill campaign's set to go for another 3 or 4 weeks now, and we're testing targets our Three Firs porphyry, that's never been drilled by us before. We've got some drill holes to do up at Red Gold. And then I think we'll bring the rig back to, based on the exciting rocks we've seen come out of the ground at Deerhorn, we'll bring the rig back to Deerhorn and continue to drill that southeast extension of that deposit. So lots of news flow. Assays are taking about 6 weeks to come in. So I'd expect we'd have some assays ready for Beaver Creek, and then following on for probably 6 to 8 weeks beyond that. So lots of news flow on that front. And I can say that, we continue to work on some M&A opportunities that we really like the look of. So hopefully we have some news there as well. But at the moment, the focus is very much drilling out that some of the better targets that we have at Woodjam.
Well, looking forward to more updates from Woodjam. You touch on M&A there. It's been an exciting year for M&A in the copper and gold space. I mean, obviously, significant acquisition very recently of Filo Mining. Obviously, prices come down somewhat since the highs earlier in the year, but we're still seeing a lot of attention on the commodity. And I think the fundamentals are still obviously there in terms of a supply and demand imbalance. For Vizsla, walk us through your M&A strategy. When you're looking at copper projects that you might look to acquire, what characteristics do you tend to look out for?
Yeah, grade is always an important factor. Price, there's still some bargains out there. Certainly that Universal Copper acquisition that gave us the Poplar project, that project has had, in today's dollars, over 50 million spent on it. The discovery was made there in the 1970s. That's right down the fairway for us. We bought that for $3 million, and that gave us 2 billion pounds of metal in the ground. Now, that won't be worth $3 million for long as the copper price really starts to rise again. And I think that we'll see that in the back end of this year. We're seeing some really short-term phenomena affecting the price. We saw some serious demand out of the US that drove the copper price up earlier in the year to an all-time high of about $4.80. Oh, sorry, it pipped over $5, of course. We're back at about $4 today. It started a gradual rise again. But, of course, these are very short-term phenomena. What we're focused on is the next 5 to 10 years and those factors, this dramatic change in supply-demand that's driven not only by EV demand and growth in EV sales, but also, particularly data centers and the build out of data centers. I suppose, one of the things I've learned in recent times is a ChatGPT search uses 10 times the amount of electricity as a Google search. And hence you're seeing this massive build out of data centers, and that demands much more copper. Now, it's hard, the US government's now talking about replicating its grid. China continues to build out its grid. And one of the other factors that's sort of swinging into play now at long last, we've been talking about this for 20 or 30 years, is India getting its act together and starting to really increase development and grid demand for electricity. So you're starting to see India swing into action. So all of those factors point to a dramatically growing demand profile over the next 5 to 10 years for copper. That's where we're focused. We don't do this for the short term. We're about building projects for the longer term. And hopefully our shareholders come along on that journey with us. But I can see $20 or $30 per pound of copper over the next few years. So that's where we want to be at. That's what we're focused on. And that drives our thinking around M&A. So if we can put our foot on some of these lower grade projects that have higher grade cores, Woodjam being a great example, we've got within that global resource that's 0.45% copper equivalent, there's actually 33 million tonnes at 0.7% copper equivalent. Now that's 0.1% above the average 0.6% global copper head grade mines around the world. So that's relatively high grade in this day and age. If we can grow those high grade zones, then we can deliver a mining project over the next 5 to 10 years. So that would be a great outcome for us. And so it's those sorts of projects in safe jurisdictions that we're looking at. And I think Canada is that place. British Columbia, fabulous place to invest. As I say, I've been chairman of SKENA for the past 7 years. I'm now lead director as of 6 months ago. I know that British Columbia is a place that it's a safe jurisdiction. You can, the First Nations are all important. We're winning First Nation support all the time on all of these companies and projects. You can get projects permitted. So we know and love BC. And I think British Columbia has an opportunity to become one of the world's great copper producers. There's also already a number of major copper mines. In fact, at our Woodjam property, we're only 10 kilometres away from the Mount Polly open pit, which is owned by Imperial Metals. So that's a major copper producer. So we're in a great jurisdiction, and that's the focus for us. Grade, scale, and in good, safe jurisdictions.
Great. And I think, you mentioned earlier that long-term outlook for copper, and I think it is easy to get caught up in the noise if, we fall from $5 to $4, but so long as those long-term fundamentals are still there, I think it lines up with the timelines of your project. Craig, just to wrap up, while obviously we've talked a lot about some of the potential selling points of Vizsla Copper today, there are a lot of other copper exploration and development stories out there, and even in BC, you're not spoiled for choice as an investor. So, in your view, why should an investor be taking a look at Vizsla Copper, and why is now a particularly good time to pay attention?
Yeah, okay. Well, the first thing is copper is the place to be in mining at the moment. I think any of the battery metals, any of those critical elements, copper and silver particularly, that's the right place to be. For us, what I love to do as an investor personally is buy stocks where companies are drilling and being very active. And, we've got news flow results coming over the next couple of months. So you want to be on board for those results. And then I think beyond that, the other thing, I sort of personally do as an investor is look at teams, look at people. And the best people will always get the best projects and, can raise capital, advance their projects. And, we've got that in spades here. I'm backed by a fabulous team. Steve Blower, my VP of Exploration, is one of the world's great explorers. I back him to find another porphyry or two on these properties. But we've got good access to capital. We're good at getting the story out. And the other thing about it right at the moment is we're at bargain basement prices. I think we're at 7 cents a share today, market cap of about $15 million for 4 billion pounds of copper and nearly 1.5 million ounces of gold in the ground. That's a fair bet and a good way to leverage your portfolio to a rising copper price. So there's a lot to love about the company, and certainly, we put our money where our mouths are, James. I think I've put over $1.5 million into the company so far. Every financing, me and my partners back very, very heavily.
Great. Well, always good to see that insider support, and excited to hear more updates from Vizsla throughout the year. Craig, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, James. Really good to chat.